and piglets and things, 3 or 4 months old maximum, who are being killed off probably at the beginning of the summer when the food supplies, the grass and hay and everything is running down. And to keep the other animals going through the summer months, they need to kill off the young ones. So part of what we see here is probably to do with that culling process. Anyway, these may be settlements originally. They seem to be settlements first of all, 5,000, 4,000 BC, and nearly all the temple sites, so-called, continue right through history, in prehistory anyway, for 2,000 or 3,000 years, almost continuously. And getting the archaeological story out of continuous occupation is always very difficult. Exact moments of time tend to get very muddled up, so we have that problem as well. But nevertheless, it's very, very interesting to be able to get a view under the temple floors, and that's what we're doing here. We're getting under the broken floors to extract evidence from the earlier settlement of what people were doing here early on. So you're looking at a site of about 3,000 BC, I think, around here, because the pottery indicates it's really quite early. It's Gigantea period and possibly earlier than that. So we have some interesting stories to tell, whereas Tarshin up the road is much, much later. It's about 2,500 BC and seems to be representing the final flourish of this temple culture. Yes?
Is it possible to establish anything in the end with the people who got on this topic?
Absolutely. At the Shara circle, which we excavated about 25 years ago, we were able to extract similar, identical, if you like, contemporary people. So we have a very good population, and part of actually our project is restudying that population. The Hypogeum is another of these burial sites, and we only have the two at the moment of any substantial size. But these also have the same life history. They start 4,000 BC in the Zabuj period, and they continue right through, being re-elaborated and re-embellished, cleared out, refilled with bodies, cleared out again, reorganized, until they all stop at about 2,500 BC.
Everything stops.
Not everything, because we just don't know, but what we have in those sites stops. So life changes in the Bronze Age, as Nick may have explained. The world is a different place because of the minerals that are attracting people to Sardinia, to Spain, to Cyprus. The Mediterranean is a busy place, and far from being a series of isolated islands who occasionally communicated with each other, suddenly it's the highway to resources, and so very many different people are speeding around, and we get a sharing of cultures which is much more similar during the Bronze Age, from the Middle East to Spain, and from France and even to Britain. We have a similar Bronze Age world because people are communicating. In the Neolithic, that's not the case. People are self-contained and living in their own cultural little universes.
The Neolithic is later.
Much earlier. The Neolithic is the new Stone Age, as we call it, the beginning of farming and settlement, whereas the Bronze Age comes after that. So for Malta, the Neolithic begins a little bit before 5,000 BC, and it comes from Sicily, bringing with it farming equipment, domesticated animals, seeds for cereals. Before that, people didn't have these things. These come from the Near East originally, and they are producing pottery. And it's a similar cultural world around the Mediterranean fringes, but different formations of that. By the Bronze Age, they're fully farming, they've got all that, but then they have technology, and they have metal technology, and that's what makes everything very, very different. And with metal technology comes weapons, and with weapons come warfare, and with warfare comes a male-dominated society, sadly. So everything changes. Bronze Age is not a good time for women.
So this site is older than Tarshin?
Yes, I think it probably. Well, Tarshin, if we were able to excavate it, we might find underneath Tarshin an earlier one. or we might not. We don't know, because Temizamit, when he excavated it, stopped when he got to where he... And they have looked under the floors a little bit, but I don't think the sequence is terribly old. Here we're going back to Umjar and Gigantea. And these are cultural horizons that we think are attached to the pottery. But pottery isn't a culture. And that's one of the great mistakes of a lot of archaeology, is that pottery becomes the means by which you identify people. And pots do not have legs on them. They are the manufacturing things that, you know, is it Granny's teapot or is it the one from, you know, the shop down the road this week? Pottery changes a little over time, but not that much. So we have that issue that the pottery may not be as accurate as people used to think.
So the fact that you haven't found any statues here, could it be that the cult or religion have not established itself yet?
Well, indeed, if the figurines are truly religion, but you say ritual is another thing, and ritual and religion are two separate things, really, aren't they? What we do is the ritual, what we believe is the religion, and they work in different ways, actually, if you think about it. So we haven't got any figurines, we've got not even buttons and beads here. This lot are very boring so far. We're hunting, we're sifting, and we haven't found it. Certainly Tarshin seems to represent a fluorescence of art and expression, and it may be that they're actually a bit desperate by then. The food supplies and everything may be running a bit low, because we think by the end of the Tenerife people are a bit overpopulated on the Maltese Islands, and the fluctuations of climate, humidity, rainfall could have really been at quite dangerous levels, and it may have been that stopped that culture in the end, as well as the Bronze Age.
People
the carrying capacity may have been tipped over the edge, frankly. Yes. And we do know there are climatic fluctuations throughout prehistory. And think of this year compared with 25 years ago. Hotter. So more rain, less rain. And if you've lost the soils, if you've cut down most of the trees, as they would have done in prehistory here, the soils are telling us that, life could have been fairly on the margins. And the fact that they're having to kill all their little animals during the summer, before the summer, means also everything is on the edge. It's a marginal economy, very marginal. Whereas no sensible farmer wants to kill off their lambs before they've reached maximum meat production. But they're having to do that here. So that is indicating that things are pretty stretched. So we're getting a few hints. If only we could have the whole story. But the marvellous thing about this small site, 100 years ago, it was in the middle of fields. It was walled in to protect it. Now look at it. Where are the fields? Where's the rest of that landscape? There's nothing left outside. So the Maltese landscape is incredibly fragile. And what we have here is a last little window into that. We've lost nearly all of them. So every time you see a development site and people are shifting the soil quickly, that archaeology has disappeared as well. So we're very lucky to be able to look under here, but in fact every back garden ought to be looking as well. In some respects, if things turn up, you need to report it. And,
all the soil that's been collected for your film, that's
yeah.
not going to be just dying, isn't it?
No, that's coming back. We have to fill it all back in again.
You have to fill it back.
We do really. Well, if we leave it open.